Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum. I'm the Executive Director of New Shelves Books, and I am here for Free Advice Friday to answer your questions live at 10 a.m. Eastern every week. We do take questions live at newshelves.com/FAF, and we also take questions that are emailed in over the course of the week to info at newshelves.com. We are here live, we stream on Facebook, and we also put up our replays on YouTube, which is just youtube.com/newshelvesbooks. So thank you for joining us today, whether you're live or watching the replay. We've got some questions that we are going to jump right into. All right, Scott's first question: what is a good way to get reviews to reach the 15 required for Amazon ads? I've asked my 100 plus contacts, have 50 sales, but only 6 reviews. If I had the solid answer to this, Scott, I would be a rich lady. But the overall idea is that roughly, if you ask, maybe 10% of your contacts will actually go leave reviews, and that's 10% of your sales. So if you have 50 sales at 6, you're actually above the gang. You've got a loyal crew. The key for reviews is number 1, asking and asking again, and making sure that you're giving time between those sales. So if you saw a bunch of sales on launch day on May 15th, make sure you give them a solid 2 weeks time to get that book in their hand, to actually read it, so that they might be ready to leave a review. And then give them leading questions, give them kind of helpful tips of, reviews really mean a lot to us. If you would be willing, please go leave a review online. Here are helpful videos and how-to on how to leave a review on Amazon, on how to leave a review on Barnes & Noble. We have both of those step-by-step with screen sharing on our YouTube channel, which can be helpful. And also, a review does not have to be long. If you would even leave 3 sentences on, what your favorite part of the book was and who you would recommend it for, that would be awesome. So making it as simple as possible, as well as kind of making sure that you ask and ask again, unfortunately. Now, keep in mind, sometimes Amazon, their little algorithms, those smart little bots, will actually realize that you are connected to these people. So in some cases, you may have people who are leaving reviews, but Amazon is saying there's a personal connection here and we're not okay with that. So they will actually block that review as biased. We have no way of knowing this happened. Sometimes we'll have friends who say, well, I left a review and it's still not showing up, in which case there's nothing that you can do. It's just time to move on and kind of find the next person who you can ask. The other thing is get into review groups. Consider something like Hidden Gems. Hidden Gems is super inexpensive to put your book into and get it out to a bunch of readers for review consideration. You may also do something like a blog tour. The great thing about a blog tour is not only are bloggers often blogging about your book, they will also leave reviews on places like Amazon and Goodreads as well. David says, just threaten them, review my book or else. And that may work for your brother. It may not work so well for a colleague or a friend. But again, ask again. And it does take time. It sounds like you're well on your way. So just remember to go back to those people. And anyone who has expressed in the past that they're willing to review, remind them, even if they haven't bought the book, it's okay. They do not have to buy the book on Amazon to leave a review on Amazon. So you could simply say, hey, you're my next door neighbor. I've got a copy of the book. Can I bring it over and could you read it or read it to your grandkids? And then, would you consider leaving a review there? Another thing is kind of something in the book industry that I am not personally recommending. I am telling you that this often happens and is often said, that reviewers do not have to read the book in entirety. If you have a big tome of a book, if you've got a research book or something like that, they may decide to read a chapter that particularly interests them, or they may spot read. And that is often considered acceptable when reviewing. They just would reference that specific part of the book or chapter in their review. So again, I'm not personally recommending this. I'm telling you this is often done in the industry, and you can take that as you will. And as far as book tours, we have on the New Shelf's website, we do have a article that's all about book blog tours and the places that you can go to. It really depends where you go based on what your genre is and what your book is. So not one size fits all. There are some that are really marketed towards nonfiction or mystery or different ones like that. So I would check specific to your genre on that to see what works. And I will also post this. It was a Do This, Not That blog tours, and I will drop that in the chat for anyone who's not joining us live. You can just go to the New Shelf's website, go to our blog. There's a search feature, just type in tour, and it pulled right up for me. So there we go. So that is how I personally would do it. And of course, Scott's referencing the 15 reviews required for Amazon ads. I do want to clarify that that requirement is actually a recommendation. You can, Amazon will let you run ads with less than 15 reviews. However, I personally and many others do not recommend it because reviews build social credibility and they build readership trust. So you are more likely to get attention and conversions to sales if you have reviews. I personally do not think that ads almost ever pay off or convert well without a minimum of 15 reviews. And so that's why when I say requirement, it's a New Shelf requirement, it's a recommendation, but it's not a Amazon requirement, which I think is important to note. All right, we had a question from Cheryl. Cheryl had a question about how authors sell on-demand merchandise and if there is any specific platform. She said she looked at Spreadshop, Printful, Bonfire. And yes, there are quite a few authors who will build branded merchandise onto their website and they sell it. They don't want to have a shop out of their house. You know, like I'm happy to sell mugs with some type of logo on it. Excuse me, but I don't want to have a whole garage full of coffee mugs. I don't want to pay for that up front. I don't want, you know, whatever it may be. So there are services like we do print on demand books. There are services that are print on demand merchandise. You make less per merchandise option, know that. However, there's no upfront cost. Someone else prints, ships, you just kind of design it, which is nice. If you want to do that, I have heard of so many different platforms. I think the platforms really depend on what you are looking to do. If you're really looking into textiles like sweatshirts or bags, then there are some that are probably better than others. And then if you are looking for like notebooks or different things like that, there might be other options. And you want to make sure that whatever site you're using integrates seamlessly with your website. Are you working on WordPress or Wix or something else, and does it integrate in? So as always, I know you guys love this. There's no one size fits all. It is really specific to you, but I think that is a fun way to kind of bring branded merchandising in without a lot of cost. It could be a spot for revenue, especially if you either have something that's very branded as far as like a cute saying that's very bookish, or if you have children's or young adult titles. If you have children's or young adult titles, that is something that you could absolutely tie into. People like merch in those specific categories and genres. And again, several that she had mentioned, because I'm sure someone's going to ask, were Bonfire, Spreadshop, and Printful. And Printful in particular does integrate with Squarespace, which is where Cheryl's at. So I think it's a cool idea, though. I think it's something that can help build your brand. Who knows if someone's going to see that merchandise and, you know, jump on it and be like, wow, I don't know what this is, but I like it, so I'm going to go look it up, which is great. And I believe, Mike, you were asking about the review program, which is Hidden Gems. And the website where you can get out to reviewers is hiddengemsbooks.com. I'm dropping it in the chat. It's very inexpensive. Of course, then there are other options like NetGalley, which is more expensive. If you're with IBPA, you do get a discount for a shorter amount of time, a time commitment. And then there's also like Book Sirens. There's a bunch of them out there, but Hidden Gems is one of the least expensive. There's a long wait time often, but it is one of the least expensive in my experience. And Tara is saying that she has used Printful and would recommend it. So Printful comes recommended for t-shirts, mugs, totes, and hats, which is great. All right. I got that one. Sherry, I see you now. I found your email in my junk email when I was searching for, I always check on Fridays to look for Friday questions. Saw your email, I'll get back to you today. And how do you use KDP Rocket for searching for nonfiction title words? Can I do it myself, or do I need someone more expert in this? Are you asking for general keywords, or are you asking for keywords to put in your title? I think there is definitely a difference there. Either way, you can do it yourself. I will say that Dave Chesson has amazing videos up on his website. He's got a lot of great videos up on YouTube and helpful articles, so you can totally do it. And part of it is just looking at those keywords and how often they're used, and also looking at other titles. Go to your genre and do a genre search to see what is trending in your genre, and take a peek at their keywords and what's selling there and how much income they're making. So that's something to consider as well. And yes, we do highly recommend, it's Publisher Rocket now. It originally was KDP Rocket, but it's Publisher's Rocket now for keywords, for research, for categories. They kind of do it all, and it's a one-time buy. So highly, highly recommend that program from Dave Chesson. Would Hidden Gems be good for children's books? I have used Hidden Gems for children's books, and we did get response. Their list is a little small for children's books. And I think we run into this anywhere we're trying to do email marketing for online reviews or digital reviews, digital sales, is that not everyone is really reading children's books on a digital platform. So it's harder to curate a list. So the response was a little low through Hidden Gems. However, you pay based on how many takers you get of your book. And it's $20 to reserve. Last I checked, could change, but as of last month, April 2022, it was $20 to reserve a spot on Hidden Gems. And if you go over a certain number of reviewers that take the book, you pay more, and it can go up to several $100s. But every time I've done a children's book, it's been right around that $20 range. And we have gotten several takers. And last time, I think we got 5 or 6 reviews from Hidden Gems, which for a $20 offering and to get it out there, I think it was worth it. I think it's very fair of them that they take a reservation fee at Hidden Gems. And they're not an affiliate or anything, by the way. I just like them. They take a $20 reservation fee, but you actually pay based on how many people download your book once the email goes out. So you're paying based on who is not just on the list, but who actually is interested in your title. How many reviewers would you recommend buying on Hidden Gems? Typically, I say I'm willing to do their max, which I think is like $400. I have never, ever, ever hit that. Now, if you have a really big name title, you might, but typically then you're not, if you got a really big name title, you probably already have a street team, something like that. So if you're using Hidden Gems, I always go for the max number. And then again, that just means they won't go higher than your budget allotment. And I've never hit the max cap. And so I think the max is, again, around $400 last time I checked. And that's for like 500 potential reviewers. Again, these people are not guaranteed, even if they accept your book, they're not guaranteed to review your book. They are on a list for reviews. It is something they're encouraged to do, but we cannot make people review books. We can't require it. It's actually against a whole lot of terms, but it is something that we can do and get it out to. And the more people you get it out to, the more chance you have of actually getting reviews in the end. So let me see here. I had a question that was emailed in about not print book pricing, about royalties specific to Amazon and how that works and all the pricing. So I know we've kind of gone over Ingram Spark quite a few times, but I don't know that we have gone through pricing on Amazon in a good while anyway. So how does pricing and royalty share work on KDP for books sold on Amazon? When we're talking about print books, guys, I'm pulling out my calculator because you know me, I'm going to use easy numbers, but when you have a KDP book up on Amazon, your royalty is 60%, meaning you get a 60% cut and Amazon gets a 40% cut. However, that does not mean if you have a $10 book that you are making $6 and they're making $4, because out of that 60%, you have to pay print cost. So if you are doing a 40-60 split on a $10 book, you have $6 and then you have to take out your print cost. Let's say your print cost is $3. So what you're actually making on each book is going to be $3. And that is how print books work on Amazon. Now, if you're doing expanded distribution, there's a different, there's another drop in royalty. And typically, they are offering a 40% discount to the wholesaler. So your share goes down by quite a bit. I didn't look at those numbers. I should have, but I personally don't recommend expanded distribution. I recommend that you go and upload your book to Ingram Spark and upload your book to KDP for Amazon sales. So as far as just the retail, Amazon.com or Amazon sales, it is 60% of the retail minus your print costs. Ebooks gets a little bit more tricky. When we're looking at ebooks, you will notice that there are two options. You can pick a 35% royalty rate or a 70% royalty rate. And a lot of people are like, well, why wouldn't I pick the higher rate? Well, there's a couple things that go into that. If your book is priced at $2.99 or lower, you cannot pick the higher royalty rate. You must pick the 35%. That way, Amazon is getting their share. However, there are no delivery fees. So again, if we have a ebook that is listed for, I'm going to use simple numbers. If we have an ebook listed for $1, you as the author would get 35 cents and Amazon would get the other 65 cents. And they get that. However, there's no delivery fee. So you just know you're getting 35 cents, they're getting 65 cents. That's that 35-65 split on any ebook that is $2.99 or lower for Kindle and KDP. However, if your book is priced from $3, or no, it's $2.99. I think it's $2.99. $2.99 all the way up to $9.99. It is $2.99. $2.99 all the way up to $9.99. You can choose which option. You can do a 35% royalty or a 70% royalty. And you may be asking, why would I ever take a lower royalty? I want the higher amount. If I'm going to sell a book for $9.99, I want that 70% royalty. However, if your book is large, it's got a large file at the higher royalty rate, at that 70%, Amazon charges you a delivery fee for your book. It's digital. I know it makes no sense. I'm sure someone who is in tech could probably explain it better or just explain why they do it. But basically they can, so they are. So there is a delivery fee that Amazon charges you when you take that 70% royalty. Now, if this is a novel, if you've got a $9.99 novel that's got a relatively small file, your delivery fee is fairly low. It might be $1. And so, yeah, take that dollar off and then give me my 70% royalty. I'll make more money. But if you have a $9.99 book and you have a bigger file, let's say you have a children's book with a lot of pictures, or you have a cookbook that's got a lot of high graphics in it. The bigger that file is, the more expensive your delivery fee is. And so that is something to consider. There are times where you will make more as an author, and you have to, I mean, you just have to, the buttons are right there on KDP. Like you can click on the 70% royalty and it'll tell you what you specifically will make per sale on your book, or you can put it over onto the 35% with no delivery fee, and that's it, no delivery fee, and see what you make. Most of the time, authors will make more money paying the delivery fee and taking the higher royalty share. However, again, if you have a book that has a lot of files, if it's a big file, a lot of images like a cookbook, something like that, sometimes the delivery fee is so high that you make more money at a 35% royalty with no delivery fee than you would with the higher one with delivery fee. So that is when it may matter. Most of you who have chapter books, who have text heavy books, this will not affect you in the least little bit. But for anyone who does have high images, a lot of graphs, that may affect you, and that may be something you want to look into. So that is ebook pricing for Amazon. That's how it works. That's why there are different options. And typically you're always going to try for the highest royalty possible. This is why you will also often see ebooks priced right at $2.99. It's not that $2.99 is like this magic, like, wow, I can sell more books at $2.99. It's that if you are going to sell a book in that price range, $2.99 is where you make more money. And that is why a lot of authors will do that. Excuse me. On that same end, if you try to price your book through KDP over $9.99, you go back to making less royalties. That's a whole mess. And I don't typically recommend it for indies anyway, pricing that high for an ebook. But there you go. I hope that makes sense and that you understand more of the breakdown of how you get paid. And also Kindle Unlimited, I know we've talked about this before. Kindle Unlimited is an exclusive program, which means your book is in Kindle Select, which is exclusive to Amazon. Your ebook can be at Amazon only. It cannot be listed anywhere else. And if you do that, then you are in the Kindle Unlimited program, which is like Netflix for books. I have Kindle Unlimited, so I can check out any book I want to and just get paid, it's free for me. I pay my $9.99 a month and I can check out as many books as I want to. And you as the author, rather than getting paid $2.99 for a book sale, get paid per the page read. You do get paid less typically than if you were outright selling the book. However, you can get quantity because people are more likely to jump on a new author they're not familiar with if they don't have to pay every time. And also avid readers tend to have subscriptions like Kindle Unlimited because otherwise they'd be paying a lot for books every month. So that is an opportunity for you. You get paid per the page read. So if someone downloads your book, they read one chapter and say, not for me. You don't get paid for the whole book. You get paid for the whole chapter. On the other hand, if your book goes viral and you've got 1,000 people reading your book because it's on Kindle Unlimited, then you have 1,000 page read or 1,000 people times the number of pages of your book, and you're getting paid that way. So Kindle Unlimited for some people, especially those who write fiction or write series, can be a very lucrative way to publish your books, to get an audience, and to also make a really nice income. I work with several authors who are Kindle exclusive for their ebooks. Now, this does not affect your paperback. Your paperback can still be at Barnes & Noble and everywhere else. And they make a very nice, livable income off of Kindle Unlimited. So that's something to consider as well. And I see we sparked some questions here through this, so let me see. Why do prices have the 0.99 on them, like $9.99 instead of just $10? That's a really good question. Typically, it's because it tips over at the number, but also ending in 99 has been a marketing strategy for years. It's not $10, it's a $9.99. And because the 9 is first, our human brains automatically go, oh, it's $9. It's not, if it's $2.99, it's not $3, it's $2. So it's been something that's just been ingrained in us as a marketing strategy, whether we've realized it or not, and it's very effective, still is. And also when we are looking at kind of going to these things, like with royalty shares, often it's because the whole number is when on their platform, you're kind of going to the next space. $9.99 is still in that 2 to 9 mark, but when you hit 10, you're at a different price point. And so that's why they have different royalty. Now, who decides this? Who knows? I mean, who decided this in the beginning? But it was probably just because the 99 is ingrained in us so much for marketing purposes that that's what ends up being picked. Do hidden gems reviews end up on Amazon? Again, we cannot require that anyone leave a review on Amazon. However, they're highly encouraged. And I have often had hidden gems reviews end up on Amazon as well as Goodreads, sometimes even on blogs. Yes, Valerie totally gets it. She said that always made me roll my eyes. Top gifts under $20 and they're all $19.99. Exactly. It is marketing at its finest. Yep. All right. Now you know the secret. Now watch as you look at pricing and how people market it. Caroline saying like $2 Chuck wine at Trader Joe's is $2.99. See, they get us every time. And I know it. And I look for it and I'm still like, oh, but it's just $2. See, it works. Let's see, do I need to get a new copyright and or Library of Congress control number for each foreign translation of my book? Technically, yes. When you have a new translation, when you have a new book that's put in a different language, it's a completely different edition. So it is best practice to have a new copyright for that translation because the words are different, even though the meaning is not. Words are different, meaning is not. So it is best practice to get a new copyright, and you would also have a different Library of Congress control number because that goes by your ISBN and is also cataloged by the language. So you would need to do that as well. All right. And speaking of, where can I find a professional translator? I personally, Annette, would be looking for professional translators through groups. I would go to an author group that has done that, possibly an agent who has worked with that. The thing with a translator, and yes, you can go to places like Fiverr and babblecube.com. Tara says the thing that you do want to be careful of when you do this is you do want to be careful of making sure you're finding a native speaker, if possible, of both languages, because you want to make sure that there is a translation. I could say I know Spanish, but that doesn't mean I'm a native speaker of Spanish. And sometimes book learning, as we know, is not the same as actually being in something and knowing all of the slang and different things that make something really come alive when it's translated. I'm sure we have all read things as a native English speaker. We've all read things that were translated from different languages, or we've seen the translations. It was like a big thing, aging myself, but it was a big thing in the 90s to have like shirts that were translated into different languages. And I remember going to Japan as a 14-year-old, going to Japan and seeing what the shirt said as English translations, and they made no sense. Like technically it was probably an accurate translation, but it made no sense. It wasn't natural and that kind of thing. So those are things to consider. And also having a proof or a read through of a native speaker of the language you're translating into to check for that kind of thing is helpful. Let's see. I found a wonderful Spanish translator on Fiverr, Caroline says. I now need recommendations for Spanish reviews. Any recommendations like hidden gems? I'll have to think on that one, Caroline. I've only come across a few like ever who have really focused on reviews on different platforms. However, I will say, knowing that you're probably talking about Catherine Elliott and her books are very popular, you might try for something like an international book club deal because of course more reads will get more reviews. So that might be something you consider. I'll have to think on that a bit more. That's not something I run into often about, getting reviews in a different language. I'll think on that. I'll see what I can come up with. And if anyone does have a need for a translator, Tara, our dear friend over at Emerald Lakes Books, says she has a recommendation for a translation team if you use BabbleCube, and it's a translator plus an editor. So we can certainly get you guys connected, or you can reach out to Tara if that's something you need. Let's see. And yes, there's also a note that there is something where there are also different types of Spanish and dialects. So like Canadian French is not necessarily the same as French from France and different things like that. So many things to consider, certainly when you're working through that. But if you are doing a translation or got translation rights for your books, congratulations, because that sounds awesome. All right. Valerie says, I'm designing a bookmark on Canva that I'd like to get printed to have on the table at author events. Any recommendation for printers that have good quality and turnaround time without costing a fortune? Valerie, I have number one, look for local printers. You would be surprised. Sometimes we think local printers or small shops are going to be really expensive, but I have found when I hook up with local printers, and I'm not necessarily talking about Kinko's, I'm talking about family owned mom and pop small individual printers. Many times they do things like stickers, they do bookmarks, they have lots of options, and their quality tends to be excellent. It's local, so you're supporting local. You can pick it up instead of having it shipped, which can be a big expense. And their prices are often lower than I found online. So I would consider that. I have used Vistaprint for bookmarks, and they're all right as far as pricing. The quality has been fine. So if you're just looking for something easy online, you may use them. And Pat is saying she's used Minuteman Press locally. Not familiar with that company, but that's something to consider. Yeah, those, I have to say, the local printers I have found unmatched for quality, price, and service. And when you can get better quality, better service, and the price is better, and you're supporting local businesses, I think that's just a home run. But again, Vistaprint is always a online option if you're looking for that. All right. I've got one more email. I think I have two more emails. Oops. So what happens when I get chatty? It never happens, right? All right. Cheryl asked a question about Book Report. If you've ever used the Chrome extension called Book Report, this is a extension that you can add on to your Chrome, and you give it access to your sales platforms like KDP and Amazon so that they can help track your sales for you. They track all your sales from different places, because sometimes I know we upload our books through multiple places and it can get overwhelming to keep track of our sales. And Book Report is one of the places that you can actually use. It's free for authors who have a revenue of $1,000 or less. And people like Brian Cohen, when running Amazon ads, highly recommend it. I personally have clients who use it. I do not. I am in and out of so many. I tried once. I did try Book Reporter once, but I am in and out of so many KDP and Amazon accounts that it didn't switch with me. It got stuck on one forever and ever, and it was a mess. So if you are working with multiple KDP accounts, it may not be the right solution for you. But as a indie author or individual publisher, Book Report is a great tool that many people use to curate their sales in one spot to track sales. It is free for those of under $1,000, and they will ask permission. Cheryl's specific question was, it has a pop-up that reads, are you sure you want to add Book Report to your Chrome extension? It can. Read and change your data on all Amazon.com sites and app.getbookreporter.com. Yes, so it can read all your data. This is basically saying it's going to scrape your data. You are giving them access to scrape your sales data from these websites and from Amazon.com in order to give you reports. And yes, that is, if you want to use it, you got to give them access. Many people do, and they rave about it. So that's great to know. Yes, it only reports Amazon sales though, which if you're Amazon's your main spot, there are other platforms you can use to track sales. Some are paid, some are free. It just depends on how much you're really using it for and what you're tracking. And I will say, speaking of Dave Chesson, sales reporter, he had a whole blog on comparing different sales trackers, book sales trackers, on his website. Obviously, I think the New Shelves website has the best blogs, but Dave Chesson is one of my favorites. I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding about Dave Chesson being awesome, but here we go. Oh, look. Way to go, Tara. Just get it before I could. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes. See, Tara and I've got ESP sometimes. Love it, love it. All right. And our final emailed question came from Courtney. And Courtney had a question about library events. She was saying that she has started to book some library events for an author. And they're getting interest in library events. And she said they have asked how much they charge for a library event. And so how much do authors charge for library events? She didn't want to undersell them and make them look cheap, but she also didn't want to price too high in such a way that it would turn libraries off. So this is one of those places that is kind of, it's goal oriented and up to your personal preferences, but many authors will simply go into libraries for free for the exposure. In exchange, those libraries typically will buy copies of the book and put them in circulation. Now, if you are going into a library for something such as an author Q&A or a book club, in that case, they are going to be promoting your book. They're going to be typically buying multiple copies of your book for their library so that they can lend them out for a book club. And they will also be telling people about the book. And many times, if it's a book club, they will just go out and buy it. So sometimes that's just free because they're promoting you and they're also buying your book. If, however, you are putting together an event that is more a teachable moment. Maybe you're doing a class on taxes because you have a book about taxes, or maybe it's a 90-minute presentation for something, or a class on how to make terrariums because you have a book on terrariums. I don't know. Oftentimes those do have fees associated. And I have seen this very widely depending on the time and commitment it takes from the author, as well as the name of the author. Are they going to be drawing a crowd? Is it something that requires prep for supplies? So typically, if we're talking more about an author Q&A, something where it's a visit that will take time, but not a ton of prep, these events typically are going to last anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes, where you meet with readers and you're spending time with them, but you're not really building anything. Oftentimes those will be ranged around $100 to $150, if anything. Again, those are often donated, but if not, $100 to $150 is fairly common. If you are going and you are teaching a class, or there is something that requires a presentation that you have to prep in advance, you are more likely to see something in the $300 to $350 range, simply because it takes time and preparation, and those classes are typically 60 to 90 minutes long. There are times, let's say a terrarium building, there are times where it will be, it's $300 for the class plus supplies, or you buy this list of supplies and I come for $300 and we spend 90 minutes to do this project. So think in terms of, what are you trying to get out of it? Are you trying to get exposure out of it? Or is this like actually building a speaking career that you want to build on? And also, are you going to have any follow-up sales? If you have something like a specialty book, or you have a series, are people going to go and buy other things from you after that library meetup? And it really does depend on your goals and what you're hoping to get out of it. But remember, library budgets are low. So again, you'll typically see 100 to 350 is the range that you typically see for events. And it also depends on how big the library is. If it's New York City Public Library and it's a big library, well, then you're probably going to charge more than if it is, the little Monroe County Library that's, maybe going to have 15 people show up. So that's something to consider as well. Lynn, you said that you sent in, you sent in an email, and I did not see that. So if you put in your question, I'm happy to answer it. All right. Let's see. Are all audiobooks now digital? Trini, yes, when I upload your audio files for you, thank you for the honesty, appreciate the shout out. Do we still make CDs? Essentially, is everything digital, or do we still make CDs? Most audiobooks are now digital. That's how people are using them. CD players don't even come in cars anymore. So do people still use CDs at times? Yes. However, they are fading out. They don't come in cars anymore. Most everything is connected to an MP3 player. So most indie authors will simply do a digital audiobook. Now, big brands, big names are still putting out recorded CDs. They still sell them, some to schools, to libraries, but less and less. And that is a kind of a dying breed in most cases. So I personally, as an author, would not invest much, if anything, in CDs for a book on audio. I was about to say book on tape, taking it way back. It's now just digital, and that's what you do when you're doing things like Findaway Voices or ACX. You're uploading your digital files and people are buying digital files. I'm excited for your ebook. Can't wait to hear you read it, or your audiobook. Goodness. See, my question is, my book is in Kindle, Kobo, Nook. Is there any benefit to using Ingram Spark? Who do they sell to? What about Smashwords? So as far as ebook distribution, we've covered this a little bit before. I personally recommend that you upload directly to KDP for Amazon sales for your ebook. And then you have the choice of either going to each platform like Kobo and Barnes & Noble and Google Play and uploading your book for distribution there, or using a distribution aggregator like Draft to Digital or Ingram Spark. That is up to you. You can get a full list of their distribution partners. I personally like the ease of use and access through Draft to Digital. It's DRAFT, the number 2, digital.com, and Draft to Digital did just acquire Smashwords. So everything that's available through Smashwords will soon be available through Draft to Digital. And in my experience, Draft to Digital has a much better interface, which is why I personally recommend that. If you like Ingram Spark better, have at it. They also have a lot of distribution. They get you more library distribution through like using an aggregator gets you to places like Overdrive. So not all people can just go directly to Overdrive and upload your book. In order to get an Overdrive account as a publisher, you have to submit. And if you're a small fish, it's kind of like going directly to Ingram. They're not going to give you an account. So you have to use an aggregator to get into Overdrive. Same thing with Bibliotheca, and some of those other ones. So I personally recommend using an aggregator. It works for me. It works for the majority of my clients. And again, I love Draft to Digital. Personal preference though, if you like Ingram Spark better, they do a lot of the same things. And Valerie's saying Draft to Digital has been great to work with. Which is good. All right. Let's see. Do you find that TV and radio interviews have much influence on book sales? Any advice on how to make this media really successful? Yeah, so here's the thing. I was actually reading an article not long ago about how radio is kind of going out, that a lot of radio programs and channels are moving to podcasts because podcasts is where people are listening now. People aren't really turning on the radio as much and listening to radio because it's got commercials and we're impatient. I mean, I had to watch a movie with commercials the other day and I was like, oh, no wonder why movies took so long as a kid. We've been spoiled with things like Netflix that don't make us listen to commercials, and podcasts are like that for radio. And so do I think radio interviews have a ton of influence? Not necessarily. I think that TV and radio interviews, unless it is huge programming, if you are on a huge program, Good Morning America, yeah, that's probably going to help you. But if you are on smaller places, I think it's good PR, meaning it helps get your name out there, it helps spread the word. But do I think it sells books? Not necessarily, because people there are not on a sales platform. They're not browsing around looking to buy. It is PR that helps get your name out there, helps build your brand, which I think can be valuable depending on your goals. But I think that PR is only maximum effectiveness when that PR, when PR meets advertising, when you are doing PR, you're building your brand, getting your name out there, and then you're advertising. So then people who are listening or seeing that bit of PR then are likely to stumble across an ad that follows up to it. So I've talked to people. I was talking to someone the other day who is a international actor. He has had some big roles. His memoir has been, it's been a bestseller. It's sold lots of copies. And basically it was like, yeah, I'm not so much into the PR move anymore because it doesn't sell books. I'm happy to do it. I can get into that, but it doesn't sell books because it's just another thing out there. So I think if done well, PR, radio interviews, TV interviews sometimes give social credibility to our platform, to us as authors, to us as professionals, but it's not necessarily going to move the dial with actual book sales. And I will also say that when you are working in PR, I push this so often, you need something really easy to direct people to your website. So for anyone here today, if you're really interested in learning more about this, I actually have a free course. If you just go to newshelves.com/giveaway, there's a free course and it's available to everyone. It's not a sales move, it's a giveaway. But what that does, if I was in a PR moment, if I was on, somewhere where I was getting attention, it directs people to my website for something free where I can email capture. And when I can email capture, I can sell and market to them later on. So PR, I think if you're going to do it, you need to have a plan on how to get people to your website so you can take them from a listener or a casual viewer to a follower through their email. So again, so much depends on what your personal goals are. And how you're willing to use that. And then an aggregator is just someone who is taking multiple different places that you can distribute through and putting it through one place. So, Draft to Digital, you upload one spot and they send it out to many different places. They distribute it out. Let's see. We put our new book on draft to digital, and now I see it on the Overdrive catalog. Yay! How do we get libraries to add it to their distribution? So you have to sell it, just like any book, Jane. And I know that you work hard to work with libraries, and also schools can also buy from Overdrive. So all you do is when you're pitching libraries, you say the print book's available directly or through Ingram and Baker and Taylor, and the ebook or the audiobook is available through Overdrive and bakerandtaylor.com, or Baker and Taylor for ebooks, because that's also through Draft Digital. So you simply have to mention that in your sales pitch to libraries, and then they can look it up that way and consider ordering and purchasing. Because we know just getting your book up on a platform does not mean anyone else knows about your book. There are estimates that 1 million books are published every year, with actually 1 million books are published every year, except for there is speculation that when books are published through Amazon, specifically using ASINs for ebooks instead of ISBNs, that there might actually be closer to 4 million books published every year. That's a heck of a lot of books. So it's not enough simply to get your book listed on a platform. You then have to go to the buyers and tell them about it, whether that be to the reader through Amazon ads or going to the librarians to tell them specifically about your book and asking them to buy it. That's a really important piece. And that often for authors is a piece that's missing. They're like, well, my book's available, so it should be getting bought. But a book that's not seen is a book that can't be bought. So you have to get your book seen by the correct audience again and again and again to get sales. All right. I'm realizing that 6x9 isn't the best trim size, but a 5x7. Is this correct? That depends on your genre, Marlon. If you are talking about the average novel fiction, it's actually 5x8 or 5.5x8.5 is more common for a paperback fiction. 6x9 still takes the cake for most hardcovers. Let's see. That's right. It is. Quote me thou. All right. Any success advertising on Chirp? We have a deal next month, and while discount is for 30 days, we're only front page on 1 day. So the thing with Chirp is you actually don't advertise on Chirp unless it's changed very recently. They suggest that you up your advertising on BookBub. And I will say I've had several authors advertise on BookBub during a Chirp deal and not seen any noticeable difference from when they were just doing that 30-day push on Chirp. And even the last Chirp deal that I was a part of, the author did, of course, get a huge explosion of sales on deal day when it was actually pushed out to the mailing list. But they had sales, I mean, throughout the month. They kind of trickled in after that. He ended up like 1,500 sales, though, for a literary fiction at that. So I think I would personally be advertising on places like social media and directing them to Chirp, rather than doing BookBub or Chirp ads. I think they're expensive, and I think you're kind of marketing to an audience you most likely are already hitting through the Chirp deal itself. All right. All right, you guys, it is right as well at 11. I do have to run because I am expecting a call, but we'll be back next week. You guys had awesome questions this week. If I did not get to your question, please email it to me and we will cover it next week. It will be a long weekend for Memorial Day. I hope everyone takes time with family and appreciates that, and I'll see you next time. Bye.